Light makes the vibrant world visible. Thanks to light, we perceive light and shadow in a world of living visual images. To correctly convey light and shadow, it is necessary first to pay attention to the direct light of the strongest light source, then to the reflected light sources surrounding the object, and to the predominance of one or the other. An object illuminated by a light source itself becomes a source of reflected light and diffuses light around itself. Everything we see or depict receives comprehensive illumination and diffuses reflected light. Everything we see is a world of luminous objects. Direct and reflected light create a luminous environment in nature. An object is always immersed in the streams of light from its environment. The more light an object reflects, the more visible the influence of its environment. If all parts of an object are visible, it is illuminated from all sides and diffuses reflected light from all its parts. Let's consider how light affects a sphere, which parts are illuminated by the main, strongest light source and reflected light sources, and how light reveals an object. Light falling on a sphere first hits a surface perpendicular to the light beam, revealing a highlight, the lightest part of the object. The surface then bends, and light hits tangentially, revealing a highlight zone and a midtone highlight zone. The illuminated parts become less illuminated due to the change in shape and plane of the sphere, and the tone becomes darker. Further along the sphere's rotation, the shadow zone begins, namely the boundary between the highlight and shadow zones. Next comes the object's own shadow zone. In the shadow zone, there are zones of reflections from the sky, the ground, and nearby objects. Reflections are also revealed in the midtone highlight zone from the sky and the ground. They are most noticeable on colored objects, where the warmth and coolness of the light changes. Next comes the cast shadow zone, which has blurred edges as it moves away from the object. A cast shadow is always a smooth transition. A cast shadow initially has a sharp boundary, then gradually blurs. Ambient occlusion is the shading of angles from 0 degrees to 180 degrees, in the form of a smooth stretch from the middle of the corner to the edge. Ambient occlusion adds volume to objects. Ambient occlusion is always used when drawing objects and characters in casual graphics. Look at how the light falls on the cube. How faceted shapes form zones of light and shadow. The highlight will be located on the edge of the cube. The light zone is at the top. The midtone zone. The shadow zone. Reflections. The drop shadow. Ambient occlusion. Look at how the reflection from the sphere falls on the shaded part of the cylinder and illuminates it. The drop shadow of the sphere falls on the cone. Remember that the local tone of the object should be maintained throughout its entire shape, light, gray, dark. There should be no strong contrast between the zones of light and shadow. Let's look at the shape of a donut and determine where its zones of light and shadow are. Look how many small forms there are on the large form, they all have their own zones of light and shadow. Remember, mastering 3D form takes time and practice, so don't rush the process. Grab your sketchbook and try shading some basic shapes today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Subscribe to stay tuned for next week's video, and as always, happy drawing!